Hello traders, it's Samurai Trader here. Welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to be covering once again, I've done a number of videos like this on covering the TradeMaster 2, so how to trade the TradeMaster 2 cycle indicator using the day traders fast track program strategies to confirm your entries. We now have a number of members that have the TradeMaster indicator. It is a third-party indicator. It's not an indicator that I actually own, but some of our members are getting great results from it, and I've been asked really on an ongoing basis, how would I trade it? How would I use the indicator? So the purpose of this video is to go through some tips and ideas, and I want to talk a little bit about psychology as well, because there's some important factors with this indicator that will really streamline your trading. As we get into this, I do need to say that put up the risk disclaimer. I should say there is understanding the risk. There is a risk in trading, and of course I'm going to be talking about some hypothetical returns in a moment. I've just gone back over 4 days from last week, and I'd just like to quote you the stats from those days. Now they're not exactly perfect, but I was pretty conservative in my approach with them, as you'll see when I cover them and talk about them in a couple of minutes. Now if you're watching this video, it'll be mainly members watching this video, but if you're not a member of the day traders fast track program, please visit my website where you'll be able to obtain more information on my strategies, request my ebook, and also be kept up to date, as I'm going to be reviewing third-party indicators on a much more regular basis for our members. As it's something it comes up, I would say almost every day a member would ask me about a particular indicator from a third party, as I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in indicators and programming of indicators in the past. So we're going to be talking about that in much greater detail as we go along. As always, my videos are all real and unedited, so if I fluff anything up, please forgive me. Now I just want to start with this. Is probably the greatest book ever written about trading psychology is The Disciplined Trader, and this is just so important, is that if you're not consistently profitable, if you're a brand new trader, or like 90% of the traders out there that are not profitable, what Mark Douglas says in this book is this: to become an expert, choose one simple trading pattern that identifies, or one simple trading system I should say, that identifies a pattern, preferably one is mechanical rather than mathematical, one that will give you a visual representation of the market behavior. Now using the TradeMaster 2, the way I use it and the way I recommend you consider using it, it's very much based upon pattern recognition. As humans, it's very easy for us to pick patterns, and I'm going to be showing you a number of these patterns that appear in the market every day. The market has a memory, so this is just really important. So if you are struggling with your trading, the TradeMaster will basically act as a crutch, if you like. It's a tool. And by the way, traders, I have to say this: look, the TradeMaster is a tool like every indicator. I mean, just about every indicator is a derivative of price. However, they're tools, and as master tradespeople, if you like, we have a range of tools for different market conditions. So really, that's how you would use the TradeMaster. It's a tool to be used. And as we move on, Jim Rohn, the great late Jim Rohn, stated success is nothing more than a few simple principles practiced every day. And that's one of the great things about using the TradeMaster. It makes it your trading very mechanical, very rules-based, and it's simple to apply. And as you will see, it's got an excellent win-loss ratio, which is fantastic for either a struggling trader, a trader that's been doing it tough in the past, or a brand new trader. And yes, I know the indicator is not inexpensive. As I said, it's not my indicator, it's a third-party indicator. However, the investment you make in purchasing the TradeMaster, when you look at the statistics and overall, and if you trade it consistently, it's very well worth the investment. So moving right along, this is important because we'll discuss the win-loss ratios in a moment, but let's look at it this way. What gives the casino the house edge? Rules and probabilities. And the same when we apply the TradeMaster. Now on with the casino, do you see the dealer missing a hand or changing any rules because the house just had 3 losing hands in a row? Of course not. They stick to the rules. And as we know, with say blackjack, it's not uncommon to see 10 losing trades in a row. Now with the TradeMaster, out of 4 days and out of there's probably a good 200 trades, once in that time I think there were 3 losing trades in a row. I think that was the maximum we had in that time, and there's some things there which I'll discuss in a moment where you can tighten up your losses and I think dramatically improve. Well, I want to be careful when I say dramatically, but you can definitely improve the results I'm about to quote you. So remember, you got to stick with it, but that's the advantage of this, because the plots, it, if you like, it applies a set of rules. This makes it easier for to follow, because members that are watching this, you'll recognize the T1s, the super scalper plots, and you'll say, well, hey, I could take them anyway. You are absolutely correct. But what the TradeMaster does, it just makes it more rules-based, and it's just great for assisting in developing the discipline. So I want to quickly talk to you about profit targets, because this is really important with any tool and any trader. You've got to have an overall target. What is your objective? Now, you hear me talk regularly about that. If you're an active day trader, a very good target is 200 plus per day. I mean, it's reasonable, particularly if you're trading something like the black gold. And here the charts I'm using is CL oil, but of course you could apply it to gold, silver, to NQ. It doesn't matter what market you apply it to excuse me, as long as you've got some volatility. That's really important. You want a trending market. The better the market at trending, the greater the waves and even the violent moves, as we're about to discuss in a moment, the better. That'll really improve your bottom line results. So if you're trading a CL, it's $10 a tick. So if you're going for 5 trades by net 5 ticks, that's 250, and let's just say your commissions are $5 each, that's 225. So if you decide to target a slightly higher profit target of 6 ticks, okay, that's 4 trades a day. If you're after say 2 trades by 11 ticks, that's 210. So what trade has the highest probability of achieving a target of 11 plus ticks? And we'll discuss that as we go along. Now, realistic traders, if your goal at the end of a week is to end up with 1,000 net per contract, you need to be targeting 300 a day plus. You've got to allow for down days. So if you're just targeting 200 a day and that's it, you wrap up for the day, you're probably going to find it difficult to achieve your net 1,000. You need to be targeting 300 plus. And so I don't want to go on this video. The purpose of this video is not to discuss money management rules, etc., but you've got to have a target. You've got to have a compelling future, and I firmly believe that trading the TradeMaster over a 3 or 4 hour period, this is a very realistic target, as we're about to see. So there are 2 types of trades that I'm going to talk about and show you, illustrate, with trend and counter trend. Now what's really interesting is that with this you have a lot more counter trend trades than with trend trades where the TradeMaster plots. However, you'll usually find that the TradeMaster is not picking up our 21Bs or our 34Bs, so that restricts the results that I'm giving you here. I'm only giving you the results of where the TradeMaster 2 plots, as I'm going to show you in a moment. So by adding the 21s and the 34s, you'll probably increase the bottom line results that I'm about to cover with you as well. Now just very quickly, so it is Monday the 7th of August 2017, so the week before. So starting with the 1st of August, so over 4 days, I'm just going to quickly read these out because once again this is mainly for members that have got the TradeMaster. So if we look at one of the days last week, I think it was actually Friday, which is the 4th and 5th of August, that rolled over past midnight my time. There were actually, it wasn't a great day with trading with trend. Sorry, counter trend trades. You only ended up over a 22 hour period up 15 ticks. If you with trend trades, you're up 23 ticks. So that's what's that, $380 for the day. But it doesn't include your 2134Bs or even your T7s with the trend. Another day there we had, let me just flick over to this. So what day was this one? Okay, so this was the first, I think it was, last week. We had over a 22-hour period, there were 11 with trend trades. So this is actually the inventory day for Wednesday. So there were 11 with trends. There were 34 counter trends. So you ended up with 14 net out of the with trend, 66 net trading counter trend. That's 660 and 140. Now I should point this out, my maximum stop is 7 ticks. Okay, so that's my maximum stop, and here for the sake of the exercise I've only used a target of 5 ticks. So my stop is 7, my target is only 5. So therefore you need to be really over 70% for your win-loss ratio to really make money, and as you're about to see, where we well and truly do that. Now where you'll dramatically improve your results once again is by taking your 34Bs, taking your 21s and your T7s with the trend, but also going for your runners. So I'm going to cover that and show you on the charts in a moment. Now another day here we had on the 2nd of August there was trading with the trend. There was net 81 ticks for the day. There was 62 ticks net for the counter trend. Now there was, by the way, that day there was 71 trades. On the 3rd, this is last Thursday, I think it might have been last Thursday, there was once again 34 trades with the trend. We had 38 counter trends. You were up 58 ticks net, or 580 trading with the trend over 22 hours, and 880 over 22 hours trading counter trend. The bottom line is these are outstanding returns, and once again, as we're about to discuss, and I'll show you in a moment, you could really dramatically improve these in my humble opinion. So when to plot the TradeMaster 2, let's get into this. Let me just pull up my yellow highlighter, and hopefully you can see this. Okay, with trend, attempt to plot the TM after every 3 to 5 candle pullback to the 34.89 and T7. So because we are waiting for the T1, the white paint bar, you'll see in a moment if you're new to this video or new to my strategies. You want to enter a trade after the super scalper plots, and the reason I'm looking for the super scalper to plot is it makes it very, very mechanical. Psychologically, it will really improve your discipline and your self-confidence when it comes to trading. But what you want to do is to be plotting in advance before it actually plots, so therefore you're ready to go with your order. Now, so you need to clearly understand how the super scalper plots. Now in the course, in the videos, and as members know, there's 300 videos in my program. Just look for the ones that are highlighted T1. Okay, so in the starter pack, if you look down at all the videos, just look at the titles, how the T1 works, how to trade the T1s, and that clearly explains the super scalper. Now if you have a trading program where you don't have the super scalper, the T1, the paint bar, simply learn the pattern. It's a very, very simple pattern, so you don't have to have a plot, because once you understand the pattern you can see it visually, and that's the thing. So after you see a retracement of 3 to 5 candle pullbacks back to the 34.89 or even deeper, you are getting ready for a super scalper to plot. Now if you're trading counter trend, attempt to plot the TradeMaster to it every T3 setup, every double top or double bottom, the T7, and every T19 divergence setup, where you'll have the T1 or the potential to have the super scalper plot, so you can get ready for an early entry. So at other times, attempt to plot the TradeMaster to it every T9 or T10 setup. Now that is when you have a T10, a money on the floor trade, or what I call the T9. It is where I know that I'm going to have a higher low or a lower high. Get ready to plot there, and I'll show you that as well. So what you're actually doing is you're plotting the trade master in advance, which just gives you a heads up. And remember, as traders, you always want to be thinking in advance anyway. What is potentially about to happen? What can I expect to happen? So it just takes a little bit of practice. Hey, using this indicator ain't rocket science. It really isn't, and in a couple of days you can really master this. And as members, by the way, if you've got any questions, if you remember and you've got the indicator, please don't even go back to TrendPRO who manufacture this indicator. Come directly to me, because we're using it and I know I love it. I've gone over it over now thousands of trades. So come directly to me. That's why you join and become as a member. I'm there to support you with it, so let me help you with it. So when you have a traded master 2 plot with trend, consider taking all qualified T1s, T2s, T25s, 21Bs, 34Bs in the direction of the trend. So let me explain that. If we look and we see that, say, our anchor charts confirming the trend direction, or we've got a nice trending market, maybe it's a good 30% or 30 degree or greater angle, consider taking all of our trend following trades in the direction of that trend until we get a strong divergence trade. So in other words, it can also confirm your trend following strategies, and I'll show you that in a moment. And even though in the recording here, in the end of the statistics I've quoted, that is where we had 80 trades and we're up, say, $1,000 per contract, I did not even refer to the anchor chart. Okay, as I mentioned, I also didn't take the 34Bs. So there are other things you could do that will cut down the number of trades and probably increase your win-loss ratios. But what I'm just trying to prove here and show you that you can be very mechanical in your approach with it. Now, tips and ideas to improve your confidence and bottom line: plot the T1 in anticipation of a T1 setting up. Okay, it's important you learn why the T1 super scalper sets up, which I've really just explained. Now consider using the 8 or 11 EMA or other trailing stop strategies to capture the big moves. Now, as I mentioned, I'm only targeting 5 ticks here. That's all, 5 ticks. And as you know, it's not uncommon to get a good 10-15 tick move with some of these entries, as we're about to see. So look at what can you be doing. And I've actually removed the 8 EMA because the 8 is quite sensitive, and if you want to allow for a little more wriggle room, the 11 can work really well. But there's a ton of exit strategies you can use, such as waiting, stay in a trade until you get, if you're long, to lower closes. There's a ton of things there, so once again I won't cover them in this video. You can also improve your net results by avoiding entering a trade at or very close to major support or resistance. Very important, traders. So if you're about to go long and you've got the 200 EMA straight above you, say you're right hard up against the EMA and they say up against the floor pivot, there's a very high probability chance you're going to bounce. Consider not taking a trade at those points. Now, there was some very blatant that I decided not to take, but on the other hand, I've taken a lot of others that were really marginal that perhaps we shouldn't have taken. But once again, I wanted to be really lax, if you like, and be what's the word for it, very conservative, or I wanted to make sure I was giving you real results that you're probably going to replicate, but you can improve those. There's a lot of things you can do to improve them. Keep daily stats, which means greater confidence. So for an example, take your spiral notebook, not a standard notepad, so have a spiral book, draw 3 columns and simply with trend, counter trend, plus minus. So what you can do is have each of those columns, and I'll talk in inches, say 1 inch apart, so over 3 inches in your column. So you can then write down in order. So say if you've got 2 counter trends, so you'd say a T3, what was the results? -7. Then you had a T19 +10. Then you had a T7 -7. Then you had a with trend, so on the 4th row down you're then putting in, it was an 89B, that was up 5 ticks. Okay, so then it'll take you about half an hour to go back over a full 24 hours, and in the rest of a column, that is where you're only going 3 inches wide, 1 inch for each of those 3 figures you want, with trend, counter trend, and the result, you can write down comments. For an example there, I had one trade there. I wrote down candles must close in the trade direction. Now, but you can take comments, little things that you're discovering as you're going through. I can give you just about everything, traders, you require, but I can't give you screen time, and that's why it's very important you spend some time. So keep stats. Now, when trading divergence counter trend, stick with the 1D for 2D. That is the one divergence. If you're using your anchor chart, stick with the best of the best divergence trades. Your 1Ds, your 2Ds, that is when you've got divergence on both your anchor and your entry, your double bottoms, your double tops, your T7s, your T19s, classic divergence, and your T3 extreme trades. Now, with those, waiting for angulation, the grade of the angulation will improve your results. Members, you should understand what angulation is, and your T19s and T3 trades. We've done a lot of training, a lot of videos on that, so really look at that and be prepared for an EMA bounce. Okay, so remember, if you're entering, say, a T19 trade, a divergence trade, and you're 3 or 4 ticks above the 34, there's quite a good probability that you're going to bounce there. You'll get a market reversal, a trend continuation. So just be aware you may need to reverse your trade. Something for you to look at and keep your stats on. Now, look for extreme T3 trades and set a high profit target. T3s are great for your 11 ticks. Okay, look for your best of the best here. Same applies. Remember on that slide I said what's going to give you the highest probability for achieving 11 ticks or more? Well, it's really any trades after a T20. A T20, of course, identifies a new trend, so you're going to have greater probability. So for an example, a 21B or even a 34B straight after a T20 is going to give you the highest probability of getting your 11 ticks. You get 2 11 tick trades a day. Hey, there's your 200 net a day. So just consider that, and once again be asking, how can I do this? What can I learn from this? What is the best trade? Ask yourself compelling, how can I say, what I call intelligent questions. Now, I already mentioned this, but I want to highlight it once more. Now, we're about to go to the charts in a moment, but when trading counter trend, you need to be ready for a possible trend continuation trade, such as the 34B or having the trade master plot. When you're focused on counter trend trading, it's very easy to miss your CT trades, your counter trend trades. So just be aware of, your trend trades. My apologies. Let me say that again. When trading counter trend, you need to be ready for a possible trend continuation trade. It's very easy to be so focused on one type of trade, you miss the obvious. So just be aware of that. T3 trades that are within the trading range. Now, this is something which is really important, is that if you have a T3 trades that are within a trading range, so let's just say if you had just before a T3 trade with the trend, if just beforehand, say within the last 15 minutes you had a higher high, and then you have a T3 set up that's lower than that previous higher high within a trading range, that is a lower probability trade. And if I remember, I'll highlight that, but just be aware your very best T3 trades are setting new highs or new lows. All right, they're a much more higher probability trade if you're setting a new high or a new high low. Stay out of chop. And I think this is the second last slide, is that traders, when you see all of your EMAs converging, they're intertwined, they're horizontal, wait for a new breakout. Just sit it out. There are that many trades with the trade master, because with any strategy, that is where it's easy to be chopped up, is once you start to see your EMAs converging. Now, after you watch this video and you want more details on the trade master, if you're a member, or even if you're a non-member, please email me directly. We've got some members that absolutely love the indicator. If you'd like more details on it, or if I can share any training with you, please email me directly. Now let's go, so trader at I'm a Day Trader, obviously, and as I mentioned, go to my website, download my ebooks, even better still, become a member. So let's go and have a look at the trade master in action. Okay, so this is the opening of the Globex session. So on the left here we can see, and it doesn't even matter what market this is, this actually is the CL233 tick, by the way. This is CL233, but it really doesn't matter what market it is, as long as you've got a trending market. And with any strategy, you go back and back test it. I like markets where you've got some good trading ranges. Okay, that's what I'm really looking for. Okay, now a couple of things here is we've got a 535B. Now 535B we know is a high probability trade, so I plot it. So what I do, take the trade master, I plot it there. Now because this is also, and by the way I should point this out, this is also a T3. We have more than 6 candles separate, and I've removed the 8 EMA. By the way, we've got more than 6 separating from the 8, so this is a T3 and it's a 535B. Be ready for a bounce, which is off the 34, and you actually then had a reverse trade, which is a 34B. Now traditionally we're very cautious of these, so here I'm still including them because the trade master qualified. Now very important, and I apologize I didn't mention this, the trade master 2 is a cycle indicator. It is a cycle indicator. It works on cycles. So if you study cycles, B2s, B6s, it's quite a complex way of trading. And Roy's got a very good book, Roy Kelly, called The Trading Method That Can Make You Rich. Now some people have said, well, it's very simplistic, it tells you nothing, but hang on, I learned something from every book. If you approach it with an attitude, what can I learn from this? How can I use this? I promise you, you'll pick up some ideas out of a book. And unfortunately, so many traders are jaded. They're so close-minded that they just, you know, they're walking past dollar notes on the ground. Literally, there are some great ideas there, but he talks briefly about cycles. And so I don't trade as a day trader. I'm looking for my 34Bs, my 89Bs. As you know, I've got over 12 strategies that I use. So the trade master is quite a left field indicator, something I don't or wouldn't normally use, but if you want to be mechanical. So I won't go into exactly how it works, but hey, it works. So let me get back to this. So what you do, you'd see you're getting a pullback, a potential 535B. So let's, and you can see my paint bar here, the super scalper. Now let's just say if it hadn't plotted, plot it in advance. Okay, so what this is giving me is a possible target and an ultimate target up here, and that's what these hash marks are, by the way. This means it's hit this is the full target, and if it's just a straight line like this one, it means that the ultimate target was somewhere down here when I first plotted it and I couldn't see the final target. So here's the target, but when you're trading counter trend, you want to be prepared for a bounce off your EMAs. Okay, so here you're ready for these bounces. You know there's a high probability bounce. We get 2 reversal candles. Okay, you plot the trade master again, and here it gives me my potential targets. Now you're thinking, okay, where's it possibly going to bounce again? 535. Okay, so it actually comes down. I get a reversal candle, I quickly plot again, and it tells me here's my extended target. Now what am I thinking? Where's it possibly going to bounce again? And it did. It bounced on my 200. So I go up there, and as soon as I get a couple of reversal candles, or even one, you can always move the indicator. Once again, you see the speed of it, it's instant. I plot it there, and it tells me, okay, here is a possible projection point. Now I've mentioned I'm only targeting 5 ticks. So if you go back and you can see here, okay, it's giving me, I've got a nice trend here. I've got multiple 34Bs, 21Bs, I've got T2s, so you can pick up. I haven't included those in the results. I'm only including trades where the trade master plots. Now very important, I had divergence here on this particular trade. Okay, run away, there was only a few ticks in it, but the reason I didn't plot it as much as the trade master would have worked on it is I had no divergence. A divergence or a T7 or a T3 is critical to the rules. Okay, so here I had divergence, I plotted it, I had divergence there, it gives me my target. Up here I had an 89B, which is a trend following strategy. Here you would have been stopped on that one. Then I had a 535 200, and members, you know what those are, 535 200. I plotted it, and I had divergence, which is great, thank you very much. It's basically a bet the farm strategy. When you've got divergence in the direction of your overall trend, and if you looked at your anchor chart, you'll see you also had a great downtrend then, right? Rub your hands together And once again, this is where you can use the 11 or even the 8 EMA to stay in these trades longer. You might get one contract at +5, maybe stay in the other one for much longer until you get a close back over the 8 or even the 11. It's these home runs, these trades you want to be in, which give you a much greater rate of return. Now I love the TradeMaster on T3s. So here is a T3. It's giving me an extended target of up here. Now it rallied up. Now remember, our stop, by the way, is 1 to 2 ticks under your swing highs and swing lows. Okay, so I should have mentioned that your stop is here. The little yellow dots you see here, that is plotted automatically by the TradeMaster, but it's lagging. Okay, so that may not plot until up here somewhere. So once again, we're thinking in advance of what the indicator may do. So I plot it, and as soon as the paint bar, the T1 plots, that's when I'm in. Now here I'm after a minimum of 5 ticks. So here I really didn't get anywhere, and notice here I've got the 420 and I've got a floor pivot just above it. So we bounced off a floor pivot, we then get some divergence, and finally we went sideways, and finally we broke through it. Okay, but we're right at the pivot. That's where you get these lower probability trades. At a pivot, remember, we don't want to buy into resistance, or we don't like buying into resistance, nor do we like selling into support. So up here then I had a 200B, and just remember, when you get your deeper pullbacks, consider only taking deeper pullbacks if you have divergence. Up here now, we rallied up. We've got a nice divergence trade setting up. I would have plotted the, and it gives me here a target of way down here. Now remember, I'm only after 5 ticks, and we're always prepared for a 34B, which is what we got. So we come down, started a reverse, I plotted TradeMaster, and up it goes. It gives me a target of way up here. Thank you very much. We had a nice T3. Now here we had a T3 then that let's see here, a T3, of course you don't need divergence. We had a T3, comes down, bounced up, formed a double triple top there, down it came. We then had a big picture T19. You can see the divergence there. By the way, you had another plot there, so you're always thinking in advance, where might it plot? Okay, there it's not plotting now. It may plot here, but no paint bar. Now here it did. Okay, we've rallied up. Okay, I'm getting divergence. Let me plot it here. It's giving me a target down here, moving right along. Okay, we come down. I'm potentially setting up for an 89B. Here it is here. Okay, I got my paint bar, I'm in. We come up here, no real divergence here on this one, by the way, but all of a sudden I get a nice double top, a divergence, plus I'm at a resistance area. You can see the gray hashed line here. We formed a T7. I plot it, gives me a target of down here, and I've got nice divergence. In I go. Thank you very much. Can you just see how I'm using it here? It's just totally mechanical in the approach, and once again, there's so many more things you can do with it. Here a T3, and you would have been stopped on this trade unless you had greater than 2 tick stop here, because here it rallied up, didn't give me 5 ticks, come down, but I then had a second entry. And that's the thing, remember the probabilities, what I mentioned earlier. In the casino, you've got to think like a casino. Is if you have 3 or 4 losing hands in a row, are you going to change things? No, you keep going. And I mentioned out of a good, I think it's about 250 260 trades, there was only one run of 3 losses. And by the way, they were all CT trades, if I remember correctly. They were deep pullbacks. Actually, I can't remember where they are now, but they might have been CT trades, and a couple of them there I could have avoided if I'd have been more particular on the entries, like here. Okay, so we had a loss there, and we had a loss there. So there's 2 losses in a row. So by the way, loss, winner, winner, winner. Now this is a T9. Okay, now this is a higher low. So when you get higher low setting up, right, they signify quite often a new trend direction. So I'm going to plot them on there. Now this is a new lower high, and you can see here it didn't plot. Okay, so and that's another thing with the indicator, as I've explained in other indicate, yeah, other videos, sorry, on the TradeMaster. Sometimes to reset the cycle, you try it on your main candle and go for the second and third candle, because sometimes it readjusts the cycle. So here I didn't get one, so that's why I didn't mark in an entry. But here I clicked on this new high low and it gave me an entry with a target of well up here. So as you get to know the tool, you can go for 10, 15 tick, 20 tick targets. So this is telling me I'm in a new trend. So I've got multiple. I've got a 34B there. I had, this was a 34B. So here it told me on this is my potential target. I achieved my 5 ticks. I then had a 34. I could have had another entry. Those have not been included in the results. Moving along here, we had then 2 losses in a row. They're included in the stats, but then I had a nice pivot bounce T19 trade. Then we had an 89B 5. Then I had another 89B. Then we had further along, we had the opening bell, which I don't trade the opening bell. And this is 15 minutes after, by the way. If we go and plot this, and the reason there's no plot there is that TradeMaster didn't plot. Now here it would have, and it did, but it was 2 minutes after opening bell. Now you could have traded that and made money. We have a lot of traders that will trade the opening bell. As I said, it's just not a trade I take. So here we had divergence that qualified, and we went. Now this actually had the paint bar plot right at the floor pivot. Now I included this in the results, but you can see here we're straight off strong divergence. We had at the floor pivot, so you're buying into resistance, so it's a low probability trade. We come on down, we then get a 535B that returned +5. Then we had there a double bottom form. I can't remember whatever result that was. Had another one, pardon me. So all of these have been included in the results I've quoted you. Okay, there's your 89B. This, by the way, is a descending triangle. We then had another 89B. Thank you very much. We had then so once again, price rallies up, you get a few candles starting up to plot here. I'm thinking, hang on, is this going to be a TradeMaster plot? I plot it, wait for the confirmation of the super scalper. I'm in. Thank you very much. Now, and here's a good example. Let me move this over here for you. If you're using your 11 EMA, you can see here you stay in a trade until you get a close on or above the 11, or even when you get a consolidation period after your second move or some slight divert. Once again, these are the ones that are going to give you 10-15 ticks, right? And that's what you just need, a couple of those a day. So take your 5 tick scalps, but then be looking for your nice runs. Okay, then you had a T3 that formed into a T7. Now when you have these, you had a T2 a TradeMaster 2 plot here, just be really aware of these. When you start to have, you've had 2 or 3 89Bs now in a trend, you start to get these. Be prepared for a lot of failures in this until you get divergence. So if you see a deep pullback, if you want to be conservative, wait for divergence. So the divergence one paid off your 5 ticks, then it formed a T7, and by the way, that was a loss, and that's marked down as a loss. Then we had a just moving along a little bit. I won't go too many more because I think you're probably getting the drift here. But here we had then a great T3. Now this is another great example. Great T7. Check your anchor chart, look at this run, and this is where either your 8 or your 11 EMA. We then had a bounce. You weren't filled up until and 1 2, yep, so you're still in that trade till over here. So you missed out on this one, which would have been probably a loss anyway. So if you had have taken this one, you would have got your 5 ticks over here, up here somewhere. So ignore these 2 trades because you're still in it. Stay with the trade. So your T3s will give you great returns. Now we rallied up here. Here was your first entry there. It was a T3 that gave you 5 or 6. In that particular case, it wasn't a great return on that one. It was 5 or 6 ticks there. We then had a great 89B. Here it is here. We then come up. We had a bounce. Let me just move this along here. What have we got there? A great pivot bounce with the trade master. So we see we're about to bounce off a pivot. I plot in advance. Here's my extended target, and of course you're always thinking, where's my likely support resistance area, which is here. We then had a 34B, but it was buying right into the floor pivot, which is a danger again. So moving along here, we had a T3 again off the 535. Now when you've got a T3 bouncing, a T3 with a 535, it's almost a bet the farm trade. Thank you very much. Great move again. Thank you very much. Use your 8 or 11 EMA to stay in. Then we had a great T3. The paint bar did not plot till over here, so no paint bar, so would have plotted there. Nothing. Now I've got a new higher high. Hey, got a reversal candle. Let me plot it here. Now it gives me a potential here, and that was good. 8 10 ticks, whatever that was. All right, stopped on that one, winner on that one, winner on that one. 200B, I don't know what that one was. I won't go through results right now, but then we can see we're rolling over. This is where we had our triangle formation again. That was a bounce off the floor pivot. Then we had another T3 down here. Thank you very much. Great T3 setup. Then I had another 535. Remember, what was once support can then become resistance. And as I close this off, we're now 41 minutes into this. Okay, so how do we stay in these moves? Well, here you can use the 11. Now here, if you use the 11, you would have been out in this one. You would have been in it's probably good 8 to 10 ticks, but you closed on, you're out. But then you've got a 21B traders. It's giving you a projection. You jump in on your 21, you've closed under your trigger line, in you go again. Then you had a T3 again. Okay, there's your extreme T3. Then you had your 34, then you formed a T7, then you had a 89. Okay, now these are all 100% mechanical. That's what I love about this for traders that are struggling. That is, the rules are I must have the T1 plot or understand the pattern of why the T1 plots. The super scalper, the trade master must confirm. I think like a casino, I take every one. We come down here, we had divergence, we bounce, and guess what? We hit the floor pivot. I got stopped out. In on the second one, 5 ticks, thank you. There's my next one that plotted on, thank you very much. Comes down, I've got big picture divergence, plotted it, thank you very much. That was a winner, that was a loss, but then your next one was a winner. So traders, it really is straightforward. And as I mentioned, where you can dramatically improve these is by when you're trading with the trend. The counter trend trades, by the way, taking every one, providing you've got divergence or it's a T3. If you've got a T3, you don't need divert, is a great winning strategy if you follow the rules of waiting for divergence or only trading T3s or your double bottoms, double tops. With your with trend trades, and you plot the trade master, and let me just plot it here for you. It gave me a final target of down here. Okay, take your 21s, take your 34s, take your T25s, all your trend trades in the direction. And of course, when you're heading to support or resistance, you know to be ready to either front run by having your exit 1 or 2 ticks in front of that potential bounce, or at least be ready to pull your stop straight up, because you know that when you come down to your floor pivots or other significant areas of support or resistance, or what we call your round numbers on oil, there's a good chance you're going to bounce. Excuse me. So you can front run those. But this is a winning strategy, traders. Okay, here high risk, I marked this one down. We've gone to another day. Why is that high risk? I'm right at the 200 and already an extended market. Okay, note times of, see, here's a great T3 again. Here's another T3 as a winner, my 89 a winner, all traded. Now that was a loss, by the way. That was actually a loss, that one. You can't see it now because I've rebooted, but sometimes when I reboot, it doesn't show you all of the T1s, but I plot these as before I restart the computer. So I know that was a T1, so you would have been stopped on that one. But hey, you've had a ton of winning trades on this day. High risk, once again, to take these straight after a T3 are high risk trades. So traders, I will this is one thing I just wanted to show you. Okay, so remember earlier I mentioned about the T3s. Here's a closer swing high. This T3 entry is a higher risk because it's not higher. Now see this T3 I've got here, this is higher than that and that one. That's a much more higher probability great reversal. Okay, so when I have a T3 and it's lower than a high and vice versa, the opposite is true. Okay, this is a lower risk because it's lower than this swing high. When I'm making new highs, your T3s are a much more higher probability trade. I want you to remember that T3s, we are making new high highs or new high lows, okay, a much more high probability. Now here is just one example, and I may as well just show you this. Two trades where you would have been stopped on. These are included. These are both legitimate T3s. Okay, you trade the T2s in the direction of the trend, 21Bs or a T2. So when you get a failed T3, you can reverse. It works well. And let me just plot the TradeMaster here. Here it gave me two targets, and there was a third target down below this low. So you want to be taking these with trend trades as well. So here you had a nice winner, loss, loss, winner. You picked up your 5 ticks I think by the, if not, you still had a T7. All of those are included. You then had what day was this? Oh, this is Friday. Friday was quite a particularly tough day. So Friday, it's taking every single one, and just to quote, so Friday, what date was that? That was I'll just give you the date because it's a good day to go back over and apply it. Friday the 5th of August, there were let's see, 16 was that 16? Might have been oh, I can't remember. Anyway, traders, you're only up 15 ticks trading. Oh, that's counter trend trading, 15 ticks, with trend 23 ticks. So that was 16. Oh look, I'm just losing track of how many trades there was in that time period, but the bottom line, traders, was you were still well and truly up, but missing out on a lot of those other really good 34Bs and the other trades. But long-winded, it's what I'm trying to say is if you still took everyone 100% mechanical, you still had a really nice winning day. As I said here, take all T1s, T2s, 21Bs when you have the sweet spot as here. So there was actually two losing trades. You picked it up here. So here's another nice T3, a lower high, but of course what I'm not including is our classic trend following trades. So it's getting a bit long-winded here now, so let me wind this up. So members, if you've got the indicator and you don't know how to use it, following this, the strategy I've got there, it's a real winner. If you're considering the TradeMaster indicator, as much as it's not inexpensive, it's a winner, traders. And particularly when you use the our entry signals using the super scalper and combine that with our T2s, our T1s, our T2s, our T25 setups, the 34Bs, it's lethal as far as results go. So 48 minutes in, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, traders. Any questions, please drop me an email at trader@imadaytrader.com.